If I let go, things will fall apart. Most experienced business owners and leaders don't say that out loud. But here's what they do instead. They stay in control. They review everything. They approve every decision. And they sit in every important meeting. And they call it leadership. But it's actually a trap. And the heavier leadership feels as your business grows or as your role expands, the more convincing that belief becomes. You know you should delegate more. You know you need stronger ownership and accountability in your team. You want self-managing teams. You want scalable leadership. But the risk feels real. And if you're being honest, sometimes it doesn't feel worth it. And that's the tension, isn't it? You know you should let go. You know you need more ownership in the business or across your department. But part of you is still thinking, what if this is the thing that breaks it? Welcome to the High Impact Leader Podcast, a leadership podcast for business owners and leaders who want self-managing teams, stronger accountability, and scalable performance without carrying everything themselves. If you're ready to focus on leadership design, not just effort, you're in the right place. Now let's come back to that tension, because of course it feels that way. You've built or inherited the standards. You've protected the clients. You've carried the culture. You've made the tough calls when others hesitated. And at some point in your business journey or early in your leadership role, tight control improved team performance. You were the clarity. You were the decision-making center. You were the accountability structure. So you stepped in. You tightened oversight and you carried more. That wasn't poor leadership. That was survival. And for a while, it worked. But here's the leadership pattern that quietly forms. You delegate the task, but you keep the decision. You assign responsibility, but you carry the accountability. You say, run with it, but you still want to review, approve, adjust, and refine. You sit in meetings just in case. You ask to be copied in. You rework output before it leaves the business. And not because your team is incapable, but because you don't quite trust the system without you in it. And that's the control trap. It looks like leadership. It feels like responsibility, but it's actually preventing the very thing you want, team accountability. Day to day, it shows up in small ways. You answer questions your team could probably answer. You solve problems they could work through with a little space. You attend meetings that technically don't require you. And internally, you justify it. You say, it's quicker if I handle this. Or this one's important. Or we can't afford mistakes. And underneath it all, you believe this. If I step back too far, team performance will drop. That's the belief that creates hidden dependency. And over time, that quietly erodes team engagement as well. Because when leaders remain the final decision maker in everything, ownership never fully transfers. And when ownership doesn't transfer, accountability never stabilizes. And when accountability isn't stable, scalable leadership never forms. Now here's where the control trap becomes very clear. Early in a business or early in a role, control reduces risk. You actually need it. Later, as you scale or grow in responsibility, control concentrates risk, but you don't see it because control still feels like leadership. It still feels like you're protecting performance. But you're actually building dependency. When you're small, tight oversight improves team performance. But when you're scaling, whether that's revenue, team size, or organizational complexity, tight oversight increases your leadership load. It's like trying to personally steer every moving part in the business or department. At first, it feels responsible, but over time, it becomes fragile because now performance is dependent on your energy. Decision-making slows, accountability blurs, and ownership escalates upwards, and the team cannot operate without you. That isn't strength. That's structural dependency. And dependency doesn't scale. This is why letting go feels risky, because you're not just releasing tasks, you're releasing control. And control has been your safety net. But here's what breaks the control trap. High impact leaders don't let go emotionally. They redesign structurally. They stop being the control center and they start being the clarity center. That's the shift. They build leadership clarity. They define what good looks like. They clarify decision-making boundaries. They establish leadership rhythm around review instead of interference and interruptions. They move from being the safety net to designing systems of ownership and accountability, and that's leadership design. Not hope, not motivation, not pressure, but building the conditions where team performance and team engagement don't rely on you. Now let's address the primary objection clearly. If I let go, things will fall apart. Maybe. Temporarily. But short-term imperfections during capability growth do not result in a collapse. They are part of development. The greater risk in leadership is this: a team that cannot operate without you. That risk compounds quietly. Leadership load increases. Decision-making becomes centralised. Managing up becomes normal. Team engagement drops, and you carry more and more every year instead of less. Then there's the second objection. The risk isn't worth it. But what's the alternative? Continuing to carry everything? Absorbing every escalation? Becoming the performance engine of the business or department? That path is very predictable. It leads to burnout, slowed team performance, passive leaders underneath you, and a ceiling on growth. The risk of redesigning ownership feels uncomfortable, but the risk of not redesigning it is far greater. Scalable leadership doesn't mean stepping away. It means leading through people. It means creating leadership clarity so ownership becomes normal. When your team knows what outcomes they own, what decisions they control, what accountability sits with them, and when performance conversations happen rhythmically and not reactively, you no longer need to hover. You no longer need to carry everything. And leadership starts to feel calmer, more deliberate, and more sustainable. So let me leave you with this. Where in your business or in your leadership role are you caught in the control trap? Where are you still acting as the control center? Not because your team can't step up, but because staying in control feels safer than redesigning ownership. That's the trap, and awareness is the first step out of it. And this is exactly the kind of leadership work we focus on inside the High Impact Leader Club. It's a community for business owners and leaders who want self-managing teams, clear accountability, and leadership that feels calmer and more sustainable. If you're ready to move from carrying everything yourself to designing leadership that actually scales, you can go to leaderbydesign.au/club or find the link in the show notes. Design your leadership, build your team, lead with impact.